Hello, group. Hope all is well. Checking on the equipment here, making sure everything is okay. I want to make sure we are prompt in our time and all that together this morning. Get started at the top of the hour. Just a quick response. If you guys want to, feel free to please share this. Oh, wait a minute. Hey, wait. What's going on here? It's loading. Maybe it doesn't start till 11 through this. I don't know. I guess we'll find out, right? It says loading, which is interesting. I wonder if I publish something. Still learning all this technology. You're just going to learn it with me here. I'm going to move this over here right now. We had some great questions last week. I'll get to in just a minute. But if you have questions on that page, or there's a button for not only the sharing, but also encouraging a share, but also an email address. So you can email me questions and things like that. And I should be able to, assuming I can kind of see around my mug here, respond to those hopefully real time. And the reason why I want to do that is because it really, I'm still kind of messing around with the technology a little bit here. You can't see my screen, I don't think. I hope you don't. Can't seem to get that back over. No, I don't think you should. No, I haven't shared my screen yet. So I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you can't see anything. I'm going to move it on over there. Bring it down again. Got multiple monitors going on. You're going to love it. It's good stuff. I'd much rather prefer it this way because then I can actually try to keep track of what's going on in terms of what's being said. Same thing with email, right? So if you guys want to email, that's certainly an option. The email address is chris.bernard@doc29.com. Love to take your questions. Let's see. Let's go back to this here. There we go. Says I'm live on YouTube. That's peachy keen. I'm not going to check that out because I've got some questions from some people and statements too from last week. So we'll cover those as well on the top of the hour. Meanwhile, just I guess hold tight. I'm gonna see if I can. There is a chat box typically in. I'm gonna show a little. Oh, that's my top of my computer. Hang on. All right, it goes away now. It was a little line which my computer, when I start typing, it's going to be there. So I could probably take some chats too, even in this through Zoom, since these are kind of coupled. As I mentioned last week, I'm using, what is it? What's the software I'm using? Restream.io. I didn't receive any comments back in terms of goods, bads, uglies. I know a few churches that are using it. It seems pretty powerful. I don't know if I need to upgrade or not. In terms of the video quality, I think I have these really big fat markers, which, tend to help out a little bit. We'll just kind of go through this. Again, at the top of the hour, there's several things that there's several things that need to be considered. But let me pose a question to if there's anybody out there, just to see. Let's go bring that down. I'm hoping to get more of a community here. And the reason why that is because just like you men and women out there in the actual trenches, a lot of times, or even business owners, you guys have some brilliant ideas or things that you want to talk about, things that question. And just like one of the guys asked me last week about whether or not one of the previous posts we did was talking about how basically phrase match is being adjusted with broad match, right? So they're just kind of assuming, let's see if I can pull that post up. So, so Google's updating, in terms of phrase match and things like that. Broad match modified is a great way to see variations of phrase match keywords to identify real winners. And then these winners could be used in the smart ads campaigns. So, if you go ahead and you do the testing with a broad match, the nice thing about it is it increases the flow. A lot of us, kind of get bundled into kind of, okay, I'm optimizing. And then, yes, we have a very high performance related to our keywords, but the funnel, the top stuff has disappeared because we didn't have time, we didn't build out content that was helpful, or figure out why conversions weren't taking place, right? So when it came down to it, our funnel just the amount of inventory kind of kept getting smaller and smaller because we kept optimizing to that, right? So broad match modified is where you could actually do that plus, and basically any type of, you guys know this already, the red sneakers one, right? Red plus sneakers. And let's do like reviews. I think that's one I always like because it allows for people, if you're talking about a product or a service or something of that nature, red sneakers reviews, this part here is often what you use for, different variations, right? And you can figure out then potentially capitalizing on that big impressions base, right? And you can then say, okay, well, let me go ahead and create either exact match terms and take them to a very specific page because I know they were interested in reviews, for example, or if they were interested in specs, or they were interested in sale prices, right? A person interested in reviews is probably a little bit different than the person for sale, right? Or near me terms, okay? So it was a great way to be able to do that. His question, I believe it was a he, yeah. His question was essentially, is it impacting Google Shopping? Because he often uses negative keywords in Google Shopping to kind of weed out some of the fodder, right? And I didn't have the answer for that. When I read the article, I didn't actually see anything kind of related to that. Plus, the interface is very different. So it doesn't mean that the same rules don't apply, but just like, smart ads feels different than, even though it's kind of in that same area to navigate to. So smart ads are one thing, your traditional, AdWords environment, and then merchant is very, very different, right? So I don't think it does, but again, haven't heard back from my friends at YouTube on that. I'm sorry, at Google on that. So it is what it is, right? So that answers actually one of the questions. I'm still waiting on that one. It looks like to me that Google is trying to increase revenue, and this will definitely do it for them. The cost of phrase match is going to cost me more than the modified broad match keywords. Unfortunately, yes, that's correct. That is correct. And remember, it's actually more work, right? Because at the end of the day, if I have this kind of flexibility, I don't have to. It's easier to find my way in the dark, right? Than building out, kind of phrase match key terms and now trying to feel a little bit more, because now I've got to build out massive amounts of phrase match keywords and be able to take those people to a page, right? So again, we've all been using phrase match to be able to go ahead and change things up a little bit to kind of increase our, because it's not exact match, right? So we can, words come before and words come after, and as long as that phrase is there, we can do phrase match, right? So we can use it to kind of increase our potential, visibility, right? There's impressions out there for us to get, but then also if we need to, we can then go ahead and build out more specific content and things like that. We know where to put our resources, right? So those things are kind of important to us. I'm still, I guess you would just have to click the link. Maybe if I just refresh it on this, we'll see. I'm not currently offline. No, I don't want that. It says we're live in several areas. We're just going to go with it and just see where it goes, see where it takes us. Okay. I'm going to click a few more things just to see if I can. It's not, let's see if I do. If it's actually broadcasting. There's probably something. Maybe it's me. That's me on the Zoom meeting over here. I can see myself, which is kind of scary. Anyway, let's just get started. So the article I'm talking about here, we are recording. We're good. I think the audio is good. At least it looks like it is. I got my camera. I can see the little thingies. You can use the chat if you want. Let's see if I could just open this up to everyone and see if there's anybody that wants to do it. That's interesting because the webinar one just keeps it to the panelists. I can switch it over to attendees. So I'm telling you this so that maybe if you guys want to do something, if you're specialized in a certain area, you can do these webcasts. Like with Zoom, I think it's like $50 a month or so. I forget what it is. But anyway, you can host these things and get your information out there to a much wider audience. I mean, our church, for example, is relatively small, has 150 or so people at any given time for a service, but they have 800 people that attend online, right? So that's just one little example of a little church in like Sarasota, Florida. So pretty interesting stuff there. That's good stuff. Reviews are important. Okay, so let's get started. It's 11:03. It looks like we're broadcasting. We're just going to roll with it. So thank you very much for joining today. That's good. The email thing is kind of fun. Really appreciate your attendance here to the 11 a.m. Monday morning marketing webcast. We are not going to be able to get through everything this morning that we need to. And certainly your week is likely already planned, or there's things already on your tickler file that you're going to have to be looking at. So I appreciate your time in that. I had a couple questions. According to the phrase match post a couple weeks ago, Google will be making more revenue off of their decision to kind of pull back on the broad match modified. Again, this is a big shift for Google in terms of advertising and marketing. And the reason why it's important is Google is becoming more and more automated. And there's positives and negatives with that. We'll discuss some of those this morning. So that is going to happen. I did tell you already about the shopping question with negative keywords. TJ Meow, sure I'm not pronouncing that name properly. I've been using Google Ads for over 15 years, and every time I get an account manager assigned to me, they all say the same crap. You should automate your ads. Yeah, sure. I share your enthusiasm and somewhat of a sarcasm. We were using WordStream until, I don't know, January, February of last year, I'm going to say. I'm going to say it's been about a year. And great tools, guys. I mean, there's some really great tools to be able to, kind of get your keywords. So basically, these tools that TJ is talking about, right? You have words that you want to go ahead and use and be able to, show up in the paid ads up in Google, right? And they go ahead and optimize those, right? So based on goals, that you can set rules and things like that to go ahead and have the tool basically bid up, bid down, change ad copy and stuff like that potentially. And spot opportunities, right? So you can do a lot of really quick, cool testing with that stuff. And those are really, really great. The only challenge with that is we were finding that either we're just really good at the stuff or whatever, but I think we relied too much maybe on the tools to do this stuff and not as much on the creative aspect of it to where actually, feeding good content and copy with the ads, managing those actual ads and the landing pages. We're focused on the wrong things potentially. So that being said, Google is pushing this shift. Google is shifting this to the smart ads. And some of you actually advertise campaigns and things like that. I recommend a combination. Smart ads is basically letting Google decide, okay, these are the words and these are the categories that I really want to go after. These are the themes, they call them themes in smart ads that I want to go after. Let's say you're a chiropractor, an HVAC, or you pick it, right? Laparoscopic surgeon, vascular center, it doesn't really matter. But you tell them these themes, okay? And then basically then Google with your text description ads and your photos goes ahead and does the advertising that you see, the text ads, like when you do a Google search. It also pushes that content to other properties on the site, on the web. And also, because you uploaded those photos and things like that, now those create automatically display ads. So you're literally, if you do the math on this, and it depends on how many creatives, if you're using dynamics and stuff like that, but you basically feed it with a handful of ads, right, that you've written out, which may or may not be exact, but Google splice those up in different ways and then basically create ads for them, okay? Google then takes those and is continually running tests. So AI and machine learning are being applied there. Now, I'm recommending, listen carefully, I'm recommending you actually do both smart ads and traditional Google AdWords. There's a reason for that. There's some things that you just want to show up for and you want to make sure that you can control. Well, you can't do that in smart ads. You're giving that authority and power over to Google to go ahead and figure out. So that is a challenge and just a recommendation for you in terms of that. It's Monday morning. What can you say? There's just notifications flying all over the place. All right, so the article I was referencing, Google, I love it when Google shares information out because you have to kind of take it as somewhat, trying to read in the tea leaves, right? If this is really just good for Google or not. So Search Engine Watch had Joseph Dyson did a kind of a follow-up with Google and essentially started to share some information about what should we be doing in 2021, right, as a small business. And they call it step-by-step dominating local search. They always give this 30-second at the top, and his 30 seconds are kind of like, I have to say they were very, very weak. Some of the other data was solid in it. But optimizing small business for local search is a powerful way to boost local traffic and increase sales. There's a shocker there, right? But he does share some really, really nice data in here. He really does focus on a couple key areas, which we'll visit here just in a few moments. Google My Business, keyword research and implementation, internal and external links, reviews, and some other things. So I'm gonna have to get rid of this watch. So before I leave, the stuff that he covers in this article is going to be basic stuff, okay? I will not leave you without sharing some advanced tips here today, because I think that those are really important and would allow you to definitely increase the opportunity to grow the business. So he said an astounding 80% of local searches on mobile phones, that these guys right here, right, result in a transaction. He doesn't define transaction here, but that's pretty important. So does it matter? Guys, you wouldn't be on this call if it didn't matter. So I'm not even going to really kind of cover that. There's a couple key areas in Google search, right? So, you know what? Let's just try and pull it up here. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and let's use Chrome. I'm just going to throw a screen up here. Oops, hang on there. Okay, let me get rid of some of this garbage. Okay, let me publish my screen. All right, so maybe you can see that, hopefully. I don't know if you can. Okay, so let's just go to Google. Just Google. No Gmail, just Google. Just good old-fashioned Google. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's do certified marketing consultant. Let's do Tampa. Let's see if I can flag some of these real estate so you guys have an idea as to what's going on. Okay, so paid search is obviously this stuff up here, right? It says ad. Okay, you figured that out. Then you start seeing organic, and there's our stuff, right? Optimized content takes us to an optimized page, which is great. Some cases you're going to see local search, depending on, like, right below the ads and above the organic, you're going to see those local listings. That's where your Google My Business stuff is. So these are paid ads, right? Where you're bidding on key terms. They might be smart ads. They might be Google the traditional AdWords environment. Then you may have that chart. Let's do pizza. Let's do something that we know is a local search, right? So what that tells me, by the way, is that this search term, in this case, certified marketing consultant, is not it is a local search, but watch, we do like pizza, Tampa, right? See, these right here are often the cream of the crop, right? So when I do a search, often you'll see this content right here. Are you guys seeing this, by the way? I think you are. Probably should. Oh, yeah, good. Okay. So when you see, like, often, depending on your whatever category you guys are in, this stuff right here is your Google My Business stuff. And so when I talk about Google My Business, making sure you're optimized for that, you're going, oh God, there's 3 that are showing, but look at all, if I do view all, for example, right? So there's 3 that show up typically in a search, maybe 4. I think I've seen as many as like 5. But look at all these. How do I possibly compete as a pizza place, right? In order to do that, that's crazy. So we're going to give you kind of some of those tips to see that. So again, we got the ads, right? We've got the Google My Business stuff. And by the way, this is Google My Business as well. So identifying which keywords is really, really important. This is where we'll go from basic to advanced here in a minute. And then the actual optimized articles, right? So making sure that your content is optimized for Google for various things. When I say content, I mean actual page, like writing stuff and pictures and a good call to action. All those fun things need to be there. Okay. You often see videos and things like that. Everything comes back to content, by the way. I don't care if it's an ad or not. This is interesting too. So you see right here, I did certified marketing consultant Tampa. And not only do we rank up here number 1 for that term, and we have the Google My Business stuff, we're not running ads right now yet. We're good. I want to make sure we maintain quality for our clients and things like that. So we shut that off, but I'm not going to turn off organic, obviously. So again, certified marketing consultant. Look, LinkedIn. That would be my personal page. This is the LinkedIn for the business, right? Which is kind of cool. And that outranks even like TampaSEO.com, which a couple of years ago, if you had that URL, you'd be like, boom, awesome stuff, right? So, really good, just by being disciplined, right? You can accomplish much. So I wanted to give you that kind of landscape in front as we kind of pull back and forth here on some of the content and copy so that you have an idea as to what I'm looking at, right? So when we talk about the 3-pack, that's typically what we mean is that area where you had the maps and things like that. Obviously being third is very different than being on that second page where there's nothing happening there. So you want to optimize for sure. The content writer talks about this, right? So the first thing you got to do is claim and optimize your business, Google My Business listing, right? So let's go back again. Let's share the screen. Okay. Oops. Yeah. Okay. That's no problem. Share screen again. Let's do this. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you claim a listing. In many cases, some of you have multiple listings going on where if you do a search for like your business, you're going to see multiple listings in the Google My Business area, or they'll show up here as kind of like little lines. I mean, little, like the address or the name of something, right? A lot of times they're assigned with phone numbers. So even if you have like 5 or 6 different phone numbers, you might want to do a search in Google to see what that pulls. And if it pulls a listing, because Google's created it, you may want to go ahead and claim that listing so you could do something with it. Now, in some cases, you may have different phone numbers for different departments. That is a beautiful thing. Don't say, okay, well, let me get all my keywords in there for the one listing. Okay. We have a client where it's an institute, a psychologist. They've got multiple areas, right? So if they have multiple areas like marriage counseling, for example, traditional psychotherapy and psychology. You have business and executive consulting, right? Or business executive coaching is the specific thing. You can create divisions. So if you have different phone numbers in that, you can create 3 different Google My Business profiles in that case, right? You can create the one for the primary listing and those 2 other divisions. And they have different profiles, right? The person that is interested in marriage counseling may not be interested in just the word psychotherapy. They may say, I know exactly what I want. So let me go find that. And Google is available for you. So you can have multiple listings. In which case, that does bring up like the naming configuration in here, right? So like, for example, if you have, let's say XYZ Institute, okay, or attorney firm, right? You can then do colon and then whatever that division is. Or if you have attorneys at the firm, you say attorney firm, colon, and you can have the name of the attorney, right? And you take them to that profile page on your website, which has links to their LinkedIn profile that you've optimized and those kind of things in order to do that properly. So good things can occur there, but the basics are covered in this article. He mentions the 3-pack, obviously, but he also mentions name, address, phone number, business hours, high quality photos, categories, description, website, reviews, which make up 15%, by the way, of where that local Google My Business, this stuff shows up. A lot of people say, well, I've got more reviews than they do. 15% is what that means. Okay, so if you have your reviews, like this one pizza place has 5,280 reviews. 5,280, is that how many feet in a mile? I don't remember, but 5,280. You can text me with that or whatever it is. But the reviews make up 15% of the ranking signal, right, that are used to tabulate that stuff. Does that make sense? So definitely want to make sure you're looking at reviews. Frequently asked questions. Again, there's an area in there, attributes and amenities. And again, just like in this here, you're going to see other content that populates it, right? I've only got 2 reviews in Tampa, so that really stinks, but I'll point that out for you because you may see that. And then hours, I haven't put the hours in there. I do have Calendarly appointments in there, but again, even some content that's helpful for you or for your guest to be able to see. So that's important. So to do that, to access that, like I said, query the phone number in that you have for that, and you will see something like this. Okay, claim this listing, right? Manage this listing, go find it, go claim it. It's yours, right? So go ahead and do that for those phone numbers. Make sure that you do that. And then to fill out all that information that's possible, because Google does use those in their algorithm rankings for that stuff. So that's something pretty important. Also, again, visit that area often. You go to business.google.com and you can establish new listings. Let's say you don't see it there. So you go to business.google.com in order to do that. Okay? Mental note with that. So become a pro at keyword research. Look, there's a ton of tools for you to identify which words matter. I'm going to recommend that you do 2 things. You need to figure out, don't be too general, right? You need to be specific. There's certain things that you type into Google, like just really quickly test. If you're typing in 1 word, you're not going to ever rank for that. Now, if you do 1 word and then the city, maybe, yeah, okay, you might be able to, but I'm going to even say that that's likely not going to end up resulting in anything positive. It's going to be very competitive. So here's the thing. Have a bucket list of very specific key terms that you want to make sure you rank for. Where's my thing? So you're like, I want to own these terms. Let's just say own, right? You need to own a certain number of key terms. So have that list. Do a simple Excel. Create 2 files, or you can label 1 or 2, priority, whatever the case may be. 1 is must-haves. Okay, so if that's a local term, by the way, like it's too competitive and your stuff is only local, and even if you're a national company, you may want to just say, you know what, I'm going to pick a couple of the cities, or I'm going to look at my analytics, and for whatever reason, I have more sales going on in certain cities. Great, use those cities, right? But there's some terms that you want to own. So that's 1 bucket. The second bucket is going to be the terms that are just impressions driven, like they're available for you to go ahead and use. So there's a ton of tools that you can go ahead and use. Trends.google.com is one. They only allow you about, I think, like 5 terms, and then you have to do, get rid of one of those and kind of see some of those things. The other one is Google's ad or keyword planner, and they have 2 parts of that, right? They can actually help you build out potential keywords based on keywords that are there, or you can actually pump in the keywords that you want to target, broad phrase and exact match. Okay, and they will respond back with the impressions data. Okay, those are estimators, right? Based on previous traffic and what Google's forecasting, which is great. There's a ton of other tools available out there for search. One of the other ways that you can do or find keywords that are appropriate is just use the autofill for Google, right? You go in and you start typing something and it starts building out that long list. You can grab those keywords, create that Excel document, and then go ahead and put those into the Google AdWords, the planner, and be able to see the actual potential impressions. We'll call them inventory. And you can even restrict by, the geography, right? That's important. If you're a local company, you don't care what's outside your area. If you're a local shoe company that you don't sell online, which is crazy, but you get the idea, right? Very, very important. So be specific, right? No kidding. Yep, he mentions Google Keyword Planner. The other one that I'm going to recommend, and I guess I'll save that for a moment here with the advanced tip in just a second. So we'll get back to that in a minute. On-page SEO. All comes back to keywords though. Okay. So let's say you've got this list of the keywords that you want to own, right? That, when somebody types in locally, like you have to be like that first listing, kind of like that previous thing for the Tampa certified marketing consultant. I want to own that term. I'm going to make sure there's plenty of content there. So what happens is you say, okay, I'm going to own that term, or these are the terms I'm going to go after. You need to do a little bit of research into that, right? This is on-page SEO stuff. This is where, I'm going to get the conceptual first, and then we're going to go tactical. Okay. The conceptual is this. Somebody does a Google search for that certified marketing consultant, Tampa even, right? I need to make sure that the question that they just asked, that user did, is answered with my page best. Well, how do I do that, right? One, I knew which keyword to go after. Okay, so technically, we'll get into that in a minute on what we do technically. But conceptually, what are the other competitors like around me? Like Google obviously thought they were good, because let's assume I'm not there yet, right? Google's telling me that these pages are important and they rank well for this term that I want to go after. Okay. So what does that mean? Like those are competitors, right? In my field of data. So what makes me different than them, right? So you need to figure this stuff out. Is it, pricing? Is it customer service? Is it, I make it easier to buy from me as I'm local, whatever the case may be. You need to understand when you look at those competitors, you're going to see which ones have what Google's telling you are important to that person doing that query in the first place, right? So what you want to do is say, okay, well, now I know who I am. I know what makes me special. I know which keywords they're targeting, or what keywords I'm going after. I need to build out content. Well, content is a couple of different things. It's the page you're taking somebody to, okay? So if you're taking them to that page, what's on that page? Kind of what makes you different and unique, but it should be interesting and engaging, okay? And this is where, again, all this you could probably, use an agency's help, and to some degree or not, but you need to take, video works, guys. I don't have to tell you. You need to make sure if that is a keyword you're going after and you've done all that other homework of who, what, when, where, why, and how I'm trying to get those people to, I want to provide that best page that answers their question. How to go about doing that? Video is great. If you like, I would say put an image in there until you're ready, but you need to start getting content there. You need Google, you need to answer that person's query and question, right, as best you can. So on-page SEO, the basics are still the same, folks. Title tags, meta description, robot meta tags, URLs, right? Kind of what we talked about, that SEO Tampa, right? But it would be your website.com / whatever keywords, like in, for certified marketing consultant, it's certified marketing consultant whatever, Tampa, whatever. Okay. You're trying to get as many, those proper keywords, the most important ones, early after that little slash. Header tags, right? We're talking about H1s, H2s, H3s. Some of you people yell on your pages. Look, there should only be one H1 header tag on a page. If not, you're likely to draw the spam warning. So if everything in there is an H1, you're telling Google, I've just got titles of books, or titles of sections. I don't have any content. Think about it in terms of a book. If any of you know about this stuff, right? You have a title of a book, and in that book, what do you got? We have chapters in books, right? So we have chapters in books. Okay, and then you may even have examples and things like that. So you have data, you have examples, right? Okay, and then you have, that's how this is structured, right? And in a chapter, right, you take a chapter of a book, you have content, okay? How many titles do you have in a book? And there are exceptions, certain Harry Potter episodes, Lord of the Rings, I get it. Just go with me on this, right? So that's an H1, one header per page. And then your chapters and things like that, I'm just gonna go over here because you may not be able to see it. But H2s and maybe even H3s or 4s. If I'm speaking Greek to you, please just set honestly, it is important. I mean, this is Search Engine Watch article talking to Google directly about what works and what doesn't. There's great little tools. Some of you work in WordPress quite often or another. I mean, you can use WebCO. You can use a lot of software, different packages. There's even extension downloads for Chrome to be able to kind of analyze a page and tell you what needs to be fixed with it. But like WordPress, Yoast, very popular for WordPress website, works great, by the way. It'll give you go from gray, which means ain't optimized, you can put a keyword in there, to red, to yellow, to green, okay? It'll optimize for any keyword. It'll even make suggestions on unrelated keywords and things like that. So with the paid plugin. So good stuff there. It is important. So again, going back, Google My Business, right? On-page optimizations, and then leveraging internal and external links. As you may have guessed, an internal link is just that. A link goes to an internal area of your own website. An external link is a link that goes out of your website. Now, there's some debates. I'm a small agency, right? I've got a little bit of content here, but let's say I get featured in Search Engine Watch with a link that comes from this article to my site, okay? Very powerful site, Search Engine Watch, to small little boutique digital agency in Tampa, right? Great, that's real power for me. My link out to them doesn't do me any good. And if we have links crossed together, it's just reciprocal, and Google says, it's okay, okay? So think about those kind of things, but ultimately, I would like for you to think about the user experience. So if you have wrote an article, or if you have an article, this is why content's so important. Because spiders use links, folks, to find article content. So the spider of the website, they find a link, they go through page content, then they see this link and they go off in that way and explore that page a little bit. And then they cache that stuff on their servers, and those rankings are what you see the result of when you do a search in Google. So if I have a great content article here, I've got my video going on. This is an awesome H1 title tag, blah, blah, blah. I've got some great content. Got a really nice call to action here. I might want to have a couple links in here, or even additional resources potentially, if this is my call to action or whatever, okay, that go out to maybe another page on the web, right? Not mine, okay? But I actually might have another page that, hopefully, because I've done my work and I know the keywords and I know that my keyword is likely related to other keywords, there might be a link in here that tends to my resource page, or another page on my site, or another page on my site. Let the guests do that stuff. And the beautiful part about that is not only is the guest experience enhanced, but from an SEO standpoint, awesomeness tends to occur. One more tip, guys, especially for those that need to be accountable to their advertising and marketing, if you have this go out to another website, and make sure, I'm speaking again probably in tongue, but target equals none. Make sure it blows open to a new window, right? So when the user is done with this page is still visible, right? So let's say they say, okay, I read that, boom, I'll click out. It doesn't disappear, because if I just send them from this to this page is now closed, right? And when they close that, well, my call to action just went away because it's not there anymore. This page is not on their browser anymore. So make sure you're doing that kind of stuff, okay? Always think about the user experience, guys. Always think about the user experience. How can you increase external links, write high quality content, engage other guests, right? These are really good tips. Leverage broken link building. You probably don't know what that means. Have you ever come across a page where that page content doesn't exist anymore? Okay, so let's say it's a key term that you want to go after because you're doing your research and you're really into this stuff. You go, okay, these are my must-haves, right? Well, Google, for whatever reason, maybe, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, thought that this page on one of your competitors' websites was just freaking awesome, okay? Well, that page now delivers an error as not found. You can use a system called Web Archive, right? Do a search for Web Archive, and you can put in that URL that was there, and you can go back in time. Okay, it's called the Wayback Machine too, I think, but you can go back in time and actually see what content was there on that page. Google is still, if they're still showing that page, they're telling you that, and it's erroring out. Google still cached that, but that page now errors out currently into a 401 or missing page or whatever it cannot find, okay? You can go ahead and now look at that content using the Wayback Machine or that Web Archive and see why it was important, why it was good. Create your own page, okay? Don't copy that information for the love of God, but use it to build it, because that was an answer to a question, right? That Google no longer has the original source file for, right? And you can be the recipient of that. So that's a really good way to do that. Collaborate with non-competitive business and industry to build quality backlinks. We have a HVAC client that is working with a home builder, right? It's complementary. I mean, if you're going to build a home, you're probably going to need an air conditioner, especially in Florida, let me tell you. Repurpose syndicate content, right? Again, writing kind of like, okay, like in this article here, where I'm reading an article from Search Engine Watch and I'm giving you some information about it, right? I'm not trying to steal anything away from them. I'm trying to build it out so that we, kind of understand it better, right? So I'm adding my own content to it. Offer or write authentic testimonials for other businesses in return for a backlink. Not bad, good idea. Optimization is enough, create high quality local content. Okay, so let's see, before we get any further than that. Okay, so we'll hold the content. Now let's just go jump into the content issue right away. Yeah. So you've identified the keywords, right? You say you have your must-haves, and because you've done some keyword research, you say these are the other keywords I want to go after. You need to take them to a page that's good, that answers their question. We kind of talked a little bit about this before. You need to make sure that page answers their question. And because you've done your little competitive analysis, you know why you're better than them, and you can now talk to that user in a way that's there. Again, recommending video, recommending that you follow all the SEO tips, and all the other things we talked about in terms of cross-linking and things like that for content that would be helpful on your website. So definitely make sure that you do that. Request and respond to reviews. Google makes comment in here, 53% of Americans carefully read product or service ratings and reviews to guide their shopping experience. Do you? I mean, probably half the time at least, especially with new products. And with local search, we already talked about that with the Google My Business and that 3-pack up there. Definitely want to make sure that you do that. But again, how do you know which keywords are important to you? Okay. Okay. So again, this isn't incredibly complicated, but you'll notice that there's some big themes in there. One is, look, if you have hundreds or thousands of products, you are going to need to figure out where to get the keywords. So we're going to switch over to, before we go into that, they do bring up the reviews. Okay. So when we talk about reviews, encouraging people to do reviews are important. Okay. When they're in office, especially when they're excited. Like if you just fix something for them and the air conditioning is back on when they were sweating before, they're excited. Okay. When they were in pain and all of a sudden now you fix that problem for them. Okay. Try to get them when they're excited. I mean, Apple was good at this with the whole product when your product was delivered, right? He spent a lot of effort. Steve Jobs spent a lot of effort, even just, I remember a story. He had literally hundreds, like I'd imagine this big room on the table, big long tables. This is what my story mind is remembering. But he'd have tons of different box designs, and they had to actually open without, not too fast, not too slow. They'd open just right. He was also one of the ones too, if you remember pre-Steve Jobs, all of us that bought electronics on a regular basis, we'd have to charge our phones and our stuff before. Steve Jobs was like, no, they need to be able to use it right out of the box. Okay, so those are two things, like, again, really like focused on the customer experience, right? And that wow moment of just joy, right? Good stuff there to learn from. But encourage customers to share reviews. Remember, birds of a feather flock together. If they're going to do reviews, especially if they're in your office and you've helped them with something, like, look, freaking tag them. Let birds of a feather flock together. They're going to be sharing that information out. They love to see them themselves, right, in certain situations. So by all means, know that there is that narcissistic tendency in pretty much everybody, especially in social media, right? Request reviews for people recently invested in your products or service. Yep, absolutely. Shoot an email. A lot of us have confirmation automated systems, right? Before and after you've scheduled appointments. Seriously, dude, put the links in there to the social reviews so that when they get the email from to their phone, they can simply click the link. Okay. Another quick tip too, there's some software that allows you to do that using your POS system or follow-up system, CRM, or whatever. You have to make sure that two things. First of all, don't just take them right to a social media site, okay? Like a Google or a Facebook to do that stuff. My strong suggestion is to ask them how their experience was. You can create a simple landing page that basically has, how was your experience with us, good or bad? The reason for this is, let's assume the guest had a bad experience. We'll do that first. The good experience is obvious, right? They click a bad experience. They have a problem. They want to fix the problem. Yes, maybe they want to vent a little bit too, and you can do that when they call you or whatever the case may be. A lot of times, you just want to fix the problem. Was it Good to Great? I think it was Good to Great by Jim Collins. I forget which book it was. It may not have been that book, so forgive me. Maybe you can help me with that. But essentially, the book itself was talking about the example they were bringing out was a Boston hospital, right, where the doctors are just arrogant sons of guns, and they were getting sued all the time. It was bankrupting the stuff, and the nurses couldn't even stand up to the doctors in surgery. So they put in policies to where basically the nurse could kind of pull the trigger and say, "Look, you need to stop. You need to listen to me." So it was an understanding, right? But they found that listening to patients when they had actual concerns, they had all these lawsuits going on. Literally, the lawsuits by an exponential fraction went down. Not the performance, like people were still getting harmed and things like that just by, not, surgeries and stuff like that. But what ends up happening is the patient felt listened to and potentially able to solve the problem, right? That's really what the end of the day is. So I'm strongly recommending you take people to a reviews page on your own website that allows them to do that. And some have star ratings and things like that, some other tools. You can go that way. I'll tell you about that in just a second. But once you go to that review page, did you have a good experience or bad experience? The bad experience button gives them a phone number and the personal information for the doctor, or for whoever was there. It says, I'm responsible. I'm the office manager. I'm the department head. Here's my picture. Here's my email. Here's my phone number. Let me try to get this resolved, right? listen to. And by the way, make sure you pick it up, right? The second thing is the positive, right? They had a great experience. Well, some of us are more Google oriented. Some of us are more Facebook oriented. Some of us are more Better Business Bureau oriented or Yelp oriented. Take them to the page with those social media icons. Don't try to force them into one, okay? If you can avoid it. Some cases you may say, I really only care about X, Y, or Z, social media property. I'm going to strongly suggest you don't do that because you don't know what tomorrow holds in terms of partnerships or making sure you're seeing in certain content or whatever. I think you should let the guest decide so they can click on that social media icon. If they're using their phone, right, guess what happens? They go to the one they want and they're already logged in. So there's not, oh, did I forget my password? Like all that stuff. Do I have a Google account? Right? I don't remember. So definitely want to make sure that you're doing that kind of aspect for reviews. Oh, and by the way, too, with reviews, look, even bad reviews are a great opportunity. If you answer them quickly and you be human, they can be a great tool for your business. They care about their customer. So Sally posts bad review on your company, right? Let's say it's not even valid or it's, very biased, right? Your social media team or your office manager or you even go in and say, you know what, Sally, I'm so sorry you had a terrible time. We aim for 100% satisfaction, but sometimes we don't get it. Please contact me directly at the office. Boom. You answered that within 8 minutes. She's happy. We never hear from her again. Her bad review is still there, but right below it. And I don't see Sally anymore in that. Guess what happened? I see your positive, kind of attentive response. We assume that you took care of Sally's needs, regardless of whether that actually happened or not. Okay. And I've even heard it the other way. We have a physician out in Tallahassee where not only do you take that bad review, but then she went to another social media website and posted just a glamoring review of the physician. So yes, this stuff does work. And yes, we do pay attention. Like I said, it was over 50% of the people actually use those reviews, 53% use those reviews in determining who we buy from. Let's see. So conclusion, right? We have Google My Business. We have make sure that you're doing optimizations on page. We're mentioning in terms of, reviews and things like that. So a couple different things there. Keywords, last thing. I know this is the advanced tip. This has gone way over, but as you can tell, there's a lot to be gained. I mean, we're talking about 2021, your campaigns. We haven't even touched AdWords or any of that yet, which is crazy. I think we'll have to do that next week. We kind of touched on it today. We'll have to do it next week. All right. So my strong suggestion identifying keywords is I don't trust Google. There's some things I trust Google on. I know that their AdWords environment I can trust. Like we've had clients spend $1.5 million a month in AdWords. And every time we've talked about like click fraud and things like that, saying that doesn't smell right, go look at that. They've always taken care of it. So that is their bread and butter. And I would give them my checkbook. Other than that, I don't trust them. One of the areas I do not trust Google on, and you can test me on this if you'd like, okay? You can test me on it, listen carefully. I gave you some resources earlier. You can use the trends.google.com. You can use the little drop-down thing and then go to AdWords Planner and go ahead and kind of build out the keyword planner, and you can figure out which keywords you think are there. There's other tools to be able to do that online, free resources available, etc. Go ahead, compare that list. Okay, so let's say you've got your list of 5 must-haves, and you got your list of 30. 30 is a little bit too many. 10 to 15. Let's just cap it at 20. 20 ones you want to target based on the impressions that you see available in that stuff. Okay. Here's the test. And I'd be willing to challenge you on this. We do a thing called Keyword Insight, by the way. It's for $1,000. We'll run a test. Okay. Because knowing your keywords is really, 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 really important. Okay. Google's estimators are designed to make Google money. I know that's an incredible shocker to you. Blew your mind with that one, I know. They were up, 20-some% last year. Google's tools like analytics, AdWords, Planner, Trends, all of it's designed to make Google money. And they give you like, even that, by the way, let me just share with you. That's why they limit the number of keywords that you can actually see in a lot of these tools, because they don't want you finding the gravy. Okay, I'm just telling you this. So what you end up doing, this is how we do Keyword Insight. If you need help with this, we certainly can do this. In some cases, we're taking this massive keyword list that we build out. On average, let's say it's a local business. We'll test, if it's a local business, let's say this was a local business here, with 5 mile radius around it. I'm usually going to touch a couple different city names, right? We'll take every keyword that possibly could be typed in for your product or service, competitors, reviews, near me, all that fun stuff, products, services, specs, anything. We take that keyword list, okay? And we go ahead and we, in some cases, add the cities, right? Those 5 mile radius or 10 mile radius, whatever your sales territory is. We add that to the suffix, right? Tail end of it or the beginning of it. That tells Google, even when we're doing the AdWords, you'll notice the drop downs, people often use drop downs, right? Or near me terms, right? So we'll take that big list of keywords. On average, it's 72,000 keywords for one local business with a 5 mile radius around it. That one business, one location, because it varies depending on where you're at geography wise. But we'll test that and we'll see at the end of that test which keywords have the greatest potential based on your product, service, competition, all that. We're not guessing anymore, because an impression is when somebody queried some crap into Google and it gets pulled into the search, into that result in the ad space at the top. Okay, so we're not guessing anymore. We're not using estimates anymore. We're actually using real data. So after that test, let's say that must-have list and your list of 20 words that you think are rocking, okay, we build out that keyword list and it's 150,000 keywords, and we test it live over the course of a week in your area, okay, we will have a nice list of impressions. And what we do with that list is saying, all right, based on what we know about your business, yes, we're going to go after this one. Yes, we're going to go after this one. No, those are too broad, or it doesn't fit the product, the way that we want to, or don't think it's going to convert. Yes. So basically that list of 10, 15 words becomes the gold, right? And it's funny, you can try me in this one, especially some of you outside of areas that are, let's say, more competitive, okay? You're going to see a couple different things. The more competitive stuff you're going to see likely if you start doing like your must-have keyword, 2 or 3 words in there, right? Keyword phrase with the city. Most likely you're going to have data for it, okay? For you small companies, you second or tertiary market size companies, you're likely going to find that there's nothing that shows up when you put that city in there. That is total crap. And we can show you after the test is there. In fact, what was your number one search term for Google when you do the estimator is likely going to be on your list of the top 10, but it's going to be like 8 or 7 or even 6 even. But your number one search term in many cases, especially secondary and tertiary markets, like your smaller markets or ones outside of the primary, you're going to find that number one key term and number 2 and number 3 key term received no impressions according to the estimator tool. It is so funny. It happens every single time. I've been doing this now. I graduated, 99, right? And huge keyword lists. We're talking like Midas and General Motors and things like that. Sherwin-Williams, a lot of it functions the same, whether you're a big company or a small company, because everything is local at some point, right? So I'm telling you, if you do that test, which is very audited, and it's your data, your information, your competitors, your products, your service, your marketplace, you get that list of gravy, that gold that's going to be sitting there. Now you have something to go ahead and build out. So that really is the key to this. Now you don't need our Keyword Insight or program to do that. The tools that are available for you will get you a certain distance there, okay? But all I can say is for a lot of the companies that we work with, unless we do that, we have missed the boat. And the reason why is because most of us, our businesses are doing a lot of different things. We're building different products, different competitors, all that stuff. So it's not just one thing that we're doing, okay? If we're doing 3, 4, 5 things, that's limited. I need to know what to work on, right? I need to know what page to build out, right? With the videos and stuff like that to be able to go ahead and find. So it really is important that you make sure that you identify which keyword, whatever reason that is, whatever function that is, you need to make sure that you're doing that properly. So that covers the local search kind of broad 360. I can't think of anything else. Let's see. Do you have any questions? I don't see any questions. Some of them we may just have to kind of hit on that next session here. Let's see. Yeah. We'll have to hit on the next one. So again, let me know if you have any questions, comments, etc. Next week, I think we'll discuss, well, I'll throw it out later on this week, but I think it's time to do the AdWords, basically the smart ads versus the, the smart ads, the benefits and cons of smart ads versus your traditional Google AdWords management. Maybe even cover Google Shopping, although that might be a separate kind of thing. Because there's ways of like letting go of your AdWords, by the way, is really hard. And AdWords, the smart ads do really work well, but there's several keys to making that happen. I've got a book. I'll make sure that I think it's over there. No, I don't see it. It must be in my bag. But it was written by one of the executives of Google, who has now moved on. And it basically kind of gives us an action plan for how to use smart ads, because at the end of the day, it's all going that way, just like we talked about before. So thanks for joining us this week for the 11 a.m. Monday morning marketing webcast. You have some work to do, but you also may have some questions. So if you have questions, by all means, ping me. And we'll be able to take it and get those answered for you. If you need any help, feel free to reach out. Email address is there, phone number's there. Schedule an appointment. Quick way to schedule an appointment is Chris, roibychris.com. You can just simply go down to that, schedule a session with me, 15 minutes. You can ask the questions that you want, plugged right into my calendar so that you can kind of see that. And we'll go from there. Thanks for joining me this week. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.